In fact, I was in her will when she passed away. She had over 39 properties. And I was in her will because she goes, and in the bit, and she goes, no one but my Irishman, Brian Buffini of this company, is allowed to sell these properties. Wow. And so in each one of their kids, and I helped their kids and grandkids. But it was the follow-up, it was the connection. I built a relationship with her. I'd go by and see her. I'd write personal notes to her. Every client I ever got. And when I got so I applied this method. My father used to say the work will speak for itself. So I developed a methodology so that the work, because the work didn't speak for itself, I had to make it speak. So I built a marketing system that was built around following up with my best customers. I'd write personal notes. I heard George Bush Sr. How'd you get to the White House? I write 10 personal notes a day. So I started writing 10 notes. Let's write 10 notes. Our company today sells 15 million personal notes a year.
Really?
Because I teach writing personal notes, and then people say, what are the notes you sent? So I would provide items of value in the mail rather than, here's a picture of me standing in front of a Rolls Royce or whatever, right, and I'm number one in real estate, which nobody cared. It was, hey, here's how to lower your taxes, or here's how to protect yourself from identity theft. And so every month I'd send something of value, personal notes, personal contacts, build relationships, and then built this system over time.
Talk to me about your origin story in real estate.
Yeah, so here I am. I'm actually, the first day I walked into a real estate interview, I had my leg in a cast and I was on crutches.
Right.
And but the good news is real estate is the lady liberty of all business. If you can fog a mirror, you can pass the interview.
Yeah.
And so I got in the door. Now, an ironic story, true story. I kind of make fun of it, but like I met a guy in a bar, and which is where Irish people go to think and plan, by the way. And a guy hands me
your office.
He hands me this card, and on the bottom of it, it says $1 Million Club. And I'm thinking to myself, poor immigrant, I'm down on me look, bad accent. So I've never met a millionaire before. And I don't find out till later on that he sold $1 million of real estate, which means he made 30 grand, about 15 grand after expenses. He should have had a food stamp on his business card, I was like, but I went in for an interview and they get me in the door and you're trained all the way. So I went to the training systems, cold call, door knock, expired, for sale by owners, banging on the doors, bang, 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 bang. Find them, fleece them, forget them. That was the number one trainer in the space at the time. That was his motto.
Really?
Well, that flew in the face of, can you put your name to that?
Yeah.
So a great example will be this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to meet people. I'm going to build relationships and I'm going to try to provide value. So I would go on open houses that no one else would hold, like even in rougher neighborhoods. And I remember I was a couple of weeks into the business. I don't know very much about the business yet. I'm learning. I'm going through all the training. I don't like the training. It was in violation to me of what I've been raised with. This lady walks in the door and she's about 5 foot tall, about 300 pounds. She's got a kind of disheveled appearance, spaghetti on her blouse. She walks in, walking through the door. Who are you? I'm Brian. Where are you from? You got an accent. I was a lot thicker back then. And she goes, okay, great. She locked her in the house. She goes, okay. She says, well, call me there's the 3 questions I want to know about this house. Call me, let me know. So I get back to the office, I do the work, and I call her that evening. And I go, Anna, it's Brian Buffini, just following up with you. You asked me these 3 questions, I have it for you. And she listen, she goes, oh, you called. They never call. I go, sorry? She goes, they never follow up. Who? Realtors. I go, okay. She goes, here's my address. Come on over and see me. Bring a purchase contract. Now, I had never filled out a purchase contract. And I had like a sample. I go over. This is true as I'm sitting here. I sit down with this lady. I walk in the door. I never gave her the information. She just wanted to see would I follow up. Mm-hmm. I go into this house. I sit down with her. Little Mexican lady. She walks through. It turns out it was salsa, not spaghetti. Mm-hmm. Right? I was new to the country.
Yep.
And she basically filled out the form for me, showed me what to do. And she goes, you followed up. I can see your energy. Go get me that house. Be who you say you are, and you'll be my realtor. Well, I bought her. She had 10 grandkids. And in the next 18 months, she bought every one of them a home.
Wow.
Through me. In fact, I was in her will when she passed away. She had over 39 properties. And I was in her will because she goes, and in the bit, and she goes, no one but my Irishman, Brian Buffini of this company, is allowed to sell these properties. Wow. And so in each one of their kids, and I helped their kids and grandkids. But it was the follow-up. It was the connection. I built a relationship with her. I'd go by and see her. I'd write personal notes to her. Every client I ever got. And when I got so I applied this method. My father used to say the work will speak for itself. So I developed a methodology so that because the work didn't speak for itself. I had to make it speak. So I built a marketing system that was built around following up with my best customers. I'd write personal notes. I heard George Bush Sr. How'd you get to the White House? I write 10 personal notes a day. So I started writing 10 notes. Let's write 10 notes. Our company today sells 15 million personal notes a year.
Really?
Because I teach writing personal notes, and then people say, what are the notes you sent? So I would provide items of value in the mail rather than, here's a picture of me standing in front of a, Rolls Royce or whatever,
Right.
and I'm number one in real estate, which nobody cared. It was, hey, here's how to lower your taxes, or here's how to protect yourself from identity theft. And so every month I'd send something of value, personal notes, personal contact, build relationships, and then built this system over time. And what happened is I was in debt as a 19-year-old, and I was a millionaire by the time I was 23.
Really?
And by the time I was 28, I was the number 5 realtor in the United States. And I was doing over 100 sales a year, all by referral. I had no advertising budget, high margins, high net worth, and tremendous trust with my clients. And then what happened is people said, real estate is full of conventions, as you know. And so they go, well, can you come and be at the convention? And you've won all these awards. And I had no interest. But I had this one gentleman say, hey, I'd really like you to come do me a favor, my broker. So I said, okay. And I sit on this panel of people. Can you tell us how you do it? And these were all like, they had huge advertising budgets, and they had TV commercials and big flash stuff and whatever.
All volume.
And I'm like, why am I here? And so I shared what I did. And when I finished up, this was at a large real estate convention with thousands of people. There were hundreds of people standing in line to talk to me. Can you tell me how you do it? I want to do what you do. And I'm like, really? I want to do what you do. And then the company said, can you come here and tell us how you do it there? Can you come? And over time, because I had systemized this, I built out a bit of a team at this stage. Mm-hmm. So I had multiple people who did well. So then it was like, okay, could I actually teach other people to do this the way I do it?
Yeah.
And so then that's how I got into the training side of it.
So tell me, what is the secret sauce? Because I do think that there's, a lot of entrepreneurs listen to the podcast, but in addition to that, these micropreneurs, these solopreneurs in the network marketing space do. And I think that there's some parallels. I'm always fascinated with real estate because I never really figured it out as far as using the tax benefits and from an investment side of things. I just never mastered that. But I do see the parallels in finding prospects, educating prospects, connecting with prospects, building relationships with prospects. All business is conversation. Yep. You need to be in conversation at all times. You need to make sure you're top of mind with somebody when they think about they have a need, or they might not think that they have a need, and you need to let them know they have a need. Okay, but all business is conversation. I learned that from Tony Robbins, CEO, who's a good friend of mine. Yeah, he's CEO for 22 years. He lives here in Vegas. He's retired. He said, Eric, all business is conversation. Sure. And as simple as that little thing is, that's probably 10 years old for me. Yep. It wasn't foundational, but it's become like, oh, yep, all business conversation. Yeah. We have a conversation. Who knows what's going to happen with us? We stay in conversation. Who knows what's going to happen? Right. All kinds of things could happen. But the same thing's true in the network marketing space. People need to get into more conversations. They need to increase quantity and then increase quality, right? And build real relationships and stop treating every person like you're hunting them. Right. But build a relationship, more of a farmer than a hunter. Exactly. And if you cultivate all those relationships instead of like shoot them, if you have the work ethic of a hunter, but the mindset of a farmer. Yes. The urgency of a hunter, but hate like a father, love like a mother, right, Jimmy Rohn? I mean, you asked me what the secret sauce is, and you just laid it out in tremendous detail. Well, but you've become like, how many trainers train at your level? Well, we have. I mean, we're the largest coaching company in the space. I mean, we've trained over 3 million realtors and lenders worldwide, 40 countries. So 1 out of every
8 homes in America is sold through our membership. 1 out of every 7 in Canada.
Wow.
So if we were a real estate company, we'd be probably the largest or second largest real estate company.
What's the name of the
Buffini Company.
Buffini Company.
Yeah, it used to be called Providence.
Okay.
And then it turns out there was a company had its name 150 years before I was born. And they said, we want our name back. So I said, great. I have me name Buffini. Can you put your name to it? So I didn't want to put my name on it, but I did. So,
well, good thing.
Yeah, so we built this
and
system.
when did that start? The system that you realized the system could be replicated.
Yeah, that was in. So I started like doing the guest speaking around 1994, 95, and then I opened up. We're 29 years in business, January 4th of this year, and I started out and I started putting seminars together, and people would come to this. You know, in the market was a 4-hour seminar. You remember the free seminars?
Yep.
Ogmandino actually invented it. I don't know if you know that.
No, the regional seminar?
Because back in the day, regional seminars, you had to pay $47.
Yep.
And Ogmandino invented the free ticket, $47, and then, free. And then people would come and then he'd sell his stuff in the back of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got in. The business had been a bit jaded by that. There'd been a ton of people. So always beware of people saying, no, that's been around for years. Network marketing, that's been around for years. And, when I got in, it was a slightly downturn in the market and people were like, oh, seminar speakers are a dime a dozen. Nobody trusts them, all that kind of stuff. So it's not a good time. That business is dying out. So at the time, there was 4-hour seminars and they spent 3 hours and 30 minutes selling their products.
Yep.
And I was like, I thought from my client's perspective. I think that's the gift I have. I'm able to think from your perspective. So you're coming to my seminar and I go, you're a busy realtor. You got a lot going on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a 4-hour seminar in 2 hours and 15 minutes. And what I'm going to do for 2 hours and 9 minutes is I'm going to make you laugh, I'm going to make you think, and I'm going to give you a heck of a lot of value. And then with about 5 minutes to go, I'm going to say, by the way, if you want more of this, I'm coming to town in 30 days and I have this event. When I started the free seminars in real estate, the average salesperson who was doing the 3.5-hour sales presentation, they closed 8% of the room. I would do 2 hours and 15 minutes, 6 minutes, here's what's coming. And we averaged for 17 years, 42%.
Wow.
So 42% of every room I presented to signed to go to our 2-day event. Then in our 2-day event, I would explain in depth and give a ton of value. And they would pay, it was at one stage, it was $295 and then $395. Every time I had an airplane, the call letters were always $295 or $395, $495, whatever the price of the event was, that was the tail number. So I eventually got to the point where, and we started, getting people, we had coaching behind it. So you go to the free event, you'd go to the 2-day event, and then went to the 2-day event, we explained it in detail, had people have a great experience, but really gave them more than they bargained for. And then they go, I want more. And 32% of them would get into our coaching program. Then what we did was this. We developed a philosophy, said, we're going to coach you like the only client we have. Mm-hmm. We started that 29 years ago. And so we have grown exponentially by way of referral.
What form did the coaching take? How did you deliver the experience?
So not too dissimilar to how it's done today. A little more technology now and Zooms and things like that. But it was every 2 weeks we're getting a phone call, and we'd start out with a business analysis. Where are you at? I'm sorry.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. Just one person on phone. And I've tried it all. I'm 29 years in the coaching business.
Yeah,
I've tried the group coaching and this and that. Yeah, I've tried it all. The best form of coaching is one-on-one. And so it's okay. I meet you, Eric. We have a little personality profile analysis. We bought a company years ago. So we kind of get to know, okay, here's how you're wired up. Here's how you like to communicate. Here's your speed. Okay, secondly, we do a business analysis. Where are you at? We have single moms with 6 kids. And we have someone who ran a Fortune 500 company who got into real estate. We have the most famous celebrities in the world whose spouses get into real estate. And we have people who are 19 or 20 and they just came here and got their citizenship or whatever.
Right.
So you find out who you are, where you are, what's your business, so on and so forth. And then here's the magic. We have a system, work by referral, build, sort, qualify a database.
Work by referral is the
that's
the
our
foundation.
That's our methodology. Everything else is work by referral. So it's how do you build a database? And you have a series of concentric circles. Like you have your A+ people, your advocates, those people, like when you do business with them, they tell you've got to work with Eric. He's the greatest. You have your A+, and then you have your A people. These are the people who are maybe past customers, and people forget they're past customers. And they refer you once in a while. A little stat on this. Every year, the National Association of Realtors does a stat, and they how many of you are extremely satisfied with the realtor services, and they get a high mark.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ask, what was their name?
Mm-hmm.
28% of people who say I was extremely satisfied with my realtor can't remember their name in 6 months. Can you remember the person who sold you the car? Can you remember? No, because they're on to the next.
Yeah.
So we teach stay in contact, build relationships. So it's you build up the A pluses, the A's, the B's. C people are new people you'd meet. And in today's world, we have the O's, the online social media network. And then there's the most important category is the D's. And the D's are the people to be deleted from your database. And people don't.
Because they'll suck up your energy.
They do. And so we came up with a French phrase called jackass.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
so you ever met a jackass?
Yeah.
Well, here's what we found. Good people know good people and jackasses know jackasses. And one of the things that absolutely deflates a self-employed person is that when you work with someone who doesn't value you, doesn't bring, robs you of your joy, doesn't trust you, constantly questions your value, tries to cut your fees and everything else, the person's driving around in the car going, I should be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And we go, no, you got to weed the garden. So then that becomes your database. And then we lay down a layer of activities. And again, this will be music to your network's ears, but here's what we found scientifically. The people who do the most activities are the people who make the most money.
So what are the activities that you recommend?
So we have a system layered over the top of this database. If you look at these concentric circles called contact, care, and community. So the contact.
Hold on, say that again.
So you have the circles is the database. Contact. The second one is care. And the third one is building community.
Got it.
So contact, for example, that's when you're making phone calls, you're sending out valuable emails, for example, that have resources to it. So you're reaching out, you're trying to contact people and trying to connect. How are you doing? Reaching out. On the care side, personal notes are key. And by the way, it's been around a long time. It's still the first thing that people open.
Mm.
It might be the only, and again, these personal notes are, and I hate to let the cat out of the bag. You'll get a personal note from me in about 3 days.
All right, here we go.
Because it's who I am. It's what I've done on this for a long time. And it'll be very simple. People think it's like some kind of matter. You're like, Eric, thanks a million. And I can't, really enjoyed the conversation and getting to know you.
Yeah.
And you get it in the mail. And here's the thing. I've told you this is coming. When you get this in the mail, you're going to go, that's cool. It is.
But I'll remember you.
And it's just that little cool thing. So then we developed a little methodology called pop buys, which is systematically during the course of the year. So, for example, it might be simple stuff.
Pop buys,
B-Y.
So,
not like Popeye.
Yeah.
So a pop buy is, so for example, and these are things back to my real estate days. It's July 4th. So the week before July 4th, I'm bringing ketchup, mustard, relish. And I'd have a little tag on it. Hey, just pop by to let you know I relish your referrals, that kind of stuff. And like we teach so many people now. So just so you know, during July 4th, there's two times a year, Costco changes their price. We have tens of thousands of clients. So that go to millions of homes. So our marketing pieces go to 3 million homes a month.
Wow.
So we provide the marketing, we give them to the agents we coach, and they send them out. We do this with pies at Thanksgiving. Costco makes these fantastic pies.
Yep.
And then this 3-pack of ketchup, mustard, relish, they adjust the price around that time. And we actually have a relationship with Costco. We call them headquarters wise, and we tell them how many we expect to see this year, and they'll stack it up because we actually would sell them out. So, because this has really worked for people. As simple as it is, like someone's coming by with a Thanksgiving, and what we do is give people the choice. Do you want this or that or the other? Oh, you want pumpkin? I'll be popping by. And so I'll give you a great story on this. When I was selling real estate, and this will be, the network marketing is full of people who are on both levels here. Just like real estate is.
Yep. I
was the number 1 agent in my company, number 5 in the country. People knew I was doing a great big business. There was a gal in my office. It was Mother's Day. And I have my car loaded up, an Isuzu Rodeo. You remember those bad boys?
Yeah, I had one.
Loaded to the rafters. Yeah, I had
the big grill on the front, the whole thing.
I had the green for Irish with the black grill.
Of course.
Great car, right?
The grill was awesome. You had to have the grill.
Yeah, grill and the wheel on the back of the car. So it's loaded up with flowers. And I'm delivering flowers to all the ladies in my database for Mother's Day. And I do it over the course of 4 days. Now I'm selling over 100 homes a year. And I have this gal, I'll never forget it. Her name is Louise. And she walks in the door. And Louise would sell comfortably 2 to 3 homes a year. And she comes to me with advice. And she goes, Brian, I don't know if you know this, but here in America, they actually have services that'll deliver the flowers for you. It's a lot more efficient, honey.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have the heart to tell her, Louise, that's why you sell 3 homes a year.
Yeah.
The reason I'm doing it, I don't have time to deliver flowers, but these are my most important people. And I would walk into an office, and I'd have 2 gals because someone had referred me. I'd walk in with there'd be 2 gals in there, and I'd walk in and, hey, how you doing? Just happy Mother's Day, just popping by, little hug, good to see you, great stuff. Oh, I'm going over to see Marlene, going over here. And like meerkats, all of these heads start popping up out of the cubicles. And the next thing they're all standing around. Who is this guy? Well, he's our realtor. He does stuff like this all the time. And they all look towards the door, looking for their realtor. And what's their realtor doing? I don't know. Social media.
I will tell you what's funny. I love that, the differentiation. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, I have one of our business advisors who actually isn't great in the quality of the work. Mm-hmm. But he's so good at this that I can't stop doing business with him.
For sure.
I just can't.
Yeah. Because
he's always thoughtful. He's always thinking about stuff. He's always like, hey, I got extra tickets to this. Or, hey, we got our beach house. Would you like to use it? Yeah. Here's some weeks it's available if you'd like to use it. And hey, this, and we go on vacations together. We go skiing together. Yep. We go hang out. The quality's like, when
you put both together.
Oh yeah,
now you got endorsements everywhere.
I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just saying it's not at the level.
But the relationship is why you stay with him, and the care is why you stay with him.
Yep.
Well, yesterday, so I'm at Worre Studios yesterday, and this is our first, and Lord willing, if we get invited back, not our last time being there. Well, we brought in our top 15 referred clients for the year. We had 15 people who referred us 3,000 clients last year.
What?
So in addition to the studio audience, we brought these people in. My friend Bill Hampton, who's here with me today, wined and dined them. We took them to golf courses. We took them to shows. They got massages. They got custom robes. They got all this stuff. We had a dinner with them and a nice meet and greet. And then I had them sit in the front row. Well, one of the things we did is we had little personalized gifts for each one of them when they checked into the Bellagio. So I have now. So think about that. I'm doing this today. This is 35 years later.
On their pillow.
Yeah, just little stuff for them. So I have a gentleman in the front row. We're doing Q&A and using all the Worre technology. I love that, and the iMag and the whole thing. But we also took a couple of questions from the live audience. Well, the gentleman in the front row, he's a very, very successful broker. He has 4,000 agents. He's the top broker in the state of Utah. And he's asking me like a 15-year-old kid. He goes, Brian, when I checked into my room, you guys had this bourbon for me that very few people know that I love this bourbon. And he said, I thought, wow, he got everybody this bourbon. And then I talked to the folks at breakfast this morning, and my friend here from Montana, she got this caramel popcorn that you guys got. And she said, over here, you guys got somebody like this shampoo because they're allergic to hotel shampoos. And he goes, how did you get this information? And I said, well, let me ask you about this. I'll tell you how I got the information in a minute. But how did it make you feel when you found out? And he goes, amazing. This is a very successful, very wealthy man. Everybody likes to feel cared for.
Yeah, and feel, what I learned is the love language of wealthy people is gratitude.
Sure.
If someone is grateful, a family member is grateful, they can get all the money.
Yeah.
If they're entitled.
Brilliant. Yeah.
They'll get super annoyed.
Never heard it said like that. That's brilliant.
But you want to unlock a wealthy person, just be grateful.
Yeah.
And they want to give it.
Yeah.
But every time they do, they get punched in the face or ignored or no thank you. Yeah. Nothing.
Or just treated like a dollar sign on their forehead.
Yeah, they only get calls when people need money and all that stuff. And if somebody's just grateful, they unlock everything.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, so true. So
how
I
did
guess
you
I'm
get
still practicing that. So I mean, I
information?
have coaches and I'm like, hey, just and over time, gently connecting and so on and so forth. It's like, hey, by the way, if someone was giving you a great gift, this might have been asked 6 months ago. If like if someone just knew you and knew nothing, and then they got you a little gift, what would just like he doesn't remember that conversation. None of them do.
So do you know Harvey McKay?
Oh, for sure. I've had Harvey many times. Harvey's best friend is Lou Holtz, who's another one of my mentors. And they're best friends.
Yeah, I know. I've been with Harvey and Lou at here's a golf brag, so going to Ireland where golfing was created. Lou is a member at Augusta.
I know.
And so Harvey, I've done a lot of stuff with Harvey. And the reason why I asked about the Harvey question, because Harvey has his 66 questions.
Yes.
And every time, when you've had him speak, he said, pick somebody from the crowd. I need to know everything about them, answer these questions, because I'm going to tell them about themselves. But when I show up and surprise them. Yeah. So I do the same thing. So I've golfed 17 rounds at Augusta because of Lou and Harvey staying overnight, staying in the cabins, the whole thing. But so I asked Harvey about Lou. He likes this kind of wine, like Kendall Jackson. I'm like, really? Yeah. But exactly. His wife likes chocolate. Okay, good. Yeah. His wife like Cabernet. Good. So I bring him his Kendall Jackson. I bring him his little mini Snickers, which he loves mini Snickers. and I bring 2 bottles of $3,000 bottle of wine, for his wife. And Harvey, I hand it to him. He ignores it. He's got basically the Kendall Jackson, the different stuff. And I hand it to him. And then Harvey says, hey, ask Eric how much this stuff costs. Because he was laughing. I said, well, it's like $3,000 bottle. He said, screw my wife. I'm going to put this in the safe. I'm selling this stuff immediately.
The greatest. So a little aside on that.
No, he's just a great guy, but I gave him chocolates too. And he was joking about his wife. He lost her. She passed.
Yeah, I heard about
recently.
That. And Lou's too.
Lou's getting up there and struggling.
So he brought me, my brother, and my dad from Ireland. Yeah. And we stayed at the cabin, played a couple of days, the whole thing. My favorite moment of that, my dad's a lifelong golfer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everyone in Ireland plays golf. Mm. So like the club I grew up in, they were all workmen. Yep. Okay. And we're sitting and you know what the restaurant's like, and it's the greatest thing in the world and whatever else. And he's there for lunch and the waiter says, they have no menus, right? What do you want? What do you want? Yeah. Anything you want. What do you want? And my dad, could you make me a ham sandwich? Like it was this exotic order. And the guy's looking at me. And we had and you know the story. We had the owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers are over here, the head of American Express, all these people are around. And my dad says to the waiter, he goes, am I the first house painter you ever had in here? And he goes, I reckon so. I was like, it was just a magical moment. And for the next 20 years, my dad would be at the golf club. And when the Masters is on, now this is much slopier than it looks. And it's higher.
Let me tell you how it is.
But that's the give to give. Yeah. And, Lou, I booked Lou all over the world. I referred Lou to all kinds of great stuff. And he did that for me. My house burned down in the California fires in 2007. Mm. And Lou, I had actually been as his guest at Notre Dame USC where they're unveiling the statue. Mm. And he always took it personally. And he waited the time and then he said, Brian, I want to do something for you, take your mind off rebuilding your house and whatever else. And it was me, my dad, and my brother.
Oh, how nice is that?
And he took us there. And then years later, I get to return the favor. So Lou's house got struck by lightning and went on fire. Can you imagine all the memorabilia?
Yeah, I do.
And I was just heartbroken for him. And this was right before his wife passed. And here's what he said. Here's what how great people think. I said, Lou, I know what it's like to lose everything and so on and so forth. I said, I'm going to come out to see you and spend a little time with you. He goes, that'd be great. He goes, Brian, I didn't lose anything that I can take to heaven. Mm. And he goes, I have the people I care about, and that's all that matters. Yeah. And I hung up the phone. I go, great. He's still mentoring me,
But talk about the notes. Like years earlier, there's some, golf tournament or something that happened in Minnesota, and Lou played and met my dad and my brother. He was a
coach there, yeah.
Yeah. And sent a handwritten note to my brother and to my dad. It was great to play with you. If there's anything you ever need. First time I ever met him with Marina, we were having difficulty in getting our son green card and deal with all the stuff coming into the United States. Yeah. And Lou sat down with my wife and said, so tell me what exactly I can do for you. Like before, she didn't ask anything. She said, well, she starts crying a little bit and tells him the story. He said, so he went all the way up into the White House. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For no reason. Yep. Other than just to help. Yep. And it's just like, man. I mean, and Harvey did the same thing.
Success leaves clues. Like this is who these men were. I mean, my son played football at SMU, and he had a young guy who was a walk-on who was like Rudy, and he fought, and he finally gets to start. And he's going to start against Texas A&M. And the day before they're doing a walkthrough practice, he breaks his foot. and it's his senior year.
Mm.
And he's just crestfallen. And Lou would always say, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And of course, I'd never cash in those favors.
Yeah, right.
I said,
that's
Lou,
the other trick.
Yeah.
Don't cash in.
Right.
Don't cash in favors too early.
Yeah. And
it's really bad. Try and make sure that there's always a deposit before you try and make a withdrawal.
Yeah.
Do the deposits first.
Yeah. 5 to 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 to 1.
Way higher.
And I typically, if ever I cash in a deposit, it's usually on someone else's behalf.
Yeah.
Rarely on my own.
Yeah.
But I called him up. I said, Lou, would you call this kid? And he goes, ask me something hard. And he called that young man. He had Jerome Bettis, who was this kid's favorite player, send him a signed jersey. And this young man, I mean, to this day, he actually moved to San Diego. And this young man said, like, it was his dream was to walk out and play Division I football. He never got to have that dream. But he said it was like the greatest sign of God's providence in his life, that in the midst of this heartbreak, it was one of the most amazing experiences of his life. That jersey is framed in the entrance to his home.
Wow.
But Lou Holtz, like you said, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And it's not just talk. Here's the other part of it is, a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
What can I do for you? He did chase that visa for your son. And he's in your heart forever. He's in your family's heart forever.
Yeah. Harvey did the same. And he was the king of that.
He was.
He's still.
Yeah.
To this day. He's 93, shoots his handicap every day. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's out there 5 rounds a week.
Yeah.
At 93 years old.
Yeah. And then what a connector. What a connector.
Unbelievable. But again, with gratitude for him, when he won the Horatio Alger Award, I took out a full page ad in USA Today.
You did?
Yeah. Full page.
Oh,
wow. Just a big, hero shot of Harvey. Oh. And congratulations for Horatio Alger, which is still framed in his office.
Brilliant.
He's just a legend.
You're a good guy. I get to know you better. I'm waiting for the wine. This will be.
Yeah, come on,
I'm sending you a note. I'm looking for the wine.
It's right outside the door. You like wine?
A little bit. Yeah. I do.
My wife really likes it. I like it. A little bit here and there.
Right. That's me.
I'm watching Peaky Blinders, and I'm like, I need to have some scotch. They're always drinking scotch.
I did make an investment in a gin company. I don't know if that's related to Peaky Blinders.
There you go.
It might have been inspired by that.
Something. It never seems to bother them. They seem to be okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other lessons that you've learned? I mean, I've been a trainer around the world, and I pivoted from, and it sounds like similar numbers, I only have the one book, which is stupid, but it's sold like 5 million copies around the world. And I need to kick out a couple more this year.
Yeah, right. Come on, let's go.
Is my intention, but I keep getting dragged into, other stuff that takes my time.
Yeah.
But I think you start off, you're bouncing between crisis and survival, right? Which is where most people are. And it's all externally driven. When you hit a crisis, you got to get $500 to pay your phone bill, or they're going to turn it off. You always do it. But as soon as you survive, and you start falling back to crisis again. And most people are stuck in that, in that range. Then there's between survival and success. Now that's inner driven, right? It's not outer reasons. If you have strong enough reasons, you get the next 500 when you don't need to, right? So but it's about ambition, and it's about achievement. It's about, putting your oxygen mask on before you help out somebody else. But then there's a level above success I found, which is significance. And that is finding your fuel in other people's success. It becomes about contribution. My love language in business is, am I able to contribute? And not until people get to the level that we're at, do people really believe that?
Yes.
Because when people just chase success, it's pretty empty.
Yeah.
And
I've met some poor billionaires.
Yeah. There's Dan Sullivan has a book called The Gap and the Gain. Have you seen that book?
Yes.
Interesting. It's the same concept that we live with, but it's well said to be able to say, if you're focused on where you should be versus where you are, that's one thing, but versus focusing on where you started and where you are.
Right.
That's another thing. One's gratitude. The other one's kind of failed expectations, always feeling bad because you're not.
And a loss of perspective.
Bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So contribution's been my biggest fuel.
Nice.
I still like being in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. playing with the big boys.
For sure.
I love getting in rooms that make me feel small.
Yeah.
Because, you get in some of these rooms and you just got to be quiet.
Yeah.
Just pay attention because wow, these are titans.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that burn.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why am I playing so small? Let's go.
Yeah. Right. And you find out like it's, we make these little prison cells for ourselves, and we just get on the plateau, and it's like, you meet this guy and that's all of a sudden, you meet these billionaire people and you go, hold on a second here. Like that was not revolutionary. Mm-hmm. Now there were signs, there were subtleties, but he's just decided to play at a different game. It's like someone who's decided to live in a certain neighborhood. It's a guy who just decided, made a decision. I'm like, that's a pretty good decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So in all of this, where do you get where does your joy come from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a man of faith and I'm a man of family. People, the Irish did a TV show. I mean, like their version of 60 Minutes, right? And it's the Paddy Made Good story type thing. And they entitled it The Millionaire Maker, right? Because we've helped a lot of people become millionaires. And they said, well, your legacy and this. And I said, I want to be honest with you. My legacy is my faith and my family. That's my legacy. But I said, in regards to this sense of purpose I have with my life, our company's mission is to impact and improve the lives and livelihoods of people. Mm-hmm. And it's the stories. That's where I get the juice. That's where I get the juice. Mm-hmm. It's the stories of lives transformed. We say, work by referral, live the good life. So yesterday at Worre Studios, I shared a story of a lady named Janelle Schmittling, and she came to us, and her story was, it's 2:00 in the morning. She has 2 kids. She's barely making it as a realtor. She's desperate. Her husband's struggling with alcohol, and she's selling 6-7 homes a year, and she's not paying her bills. And she starts searching around real estate coach, and she comes to our website. Our website it's not the greatest website in the world, but it features stories of our clients. Mm-hmm. And she saw the story of one of our clients who was a rags to riches type story. And she went, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. Starts the journey. And goes through the whole process. Now, the husband had, he ended up rolling his car and ended up in rehab. They were separated, all kinds of stuff. Well, she follows the path, pays the price. She's very disciplined with the system. Mm-hmm. Had her goals, stayed true to the course, and then immersed herself in personal growth and community of people. Mm-hmm. And so now she's there, and here's the years, here's the deal, and whatever else. And now here she is, and she's got a team, and she did $200 million in sales last year, and yada, yada, yada. The husband, she was able to get him the help he need. He's back home. Mm-hmm. Every time I see that video, I've seen it made. We have hundreds of these. I tear up. I showed it to my family. Sure. And I go, Dad's on the road, but Thanksgiving. I go, just so you know, you guys have all contributed to that. Yeah. And that's still the juice for me. That is more than anything else. Like, seeing that family put together, this gal who wasn't, who now is. Mm-hmm. And what did she say? The biggest thing that's changed in my life is my confidence. Right. I believe in myself. And she said, the reason I agreed to do this video is that maybe someone is sitting in their bedroom at 2 a.m. and they don't know what to do. And I want them to know there's hope and you can do it. And so that's the juice. I know that's your juice.
It is. Tell me, I'm guessing we're similar age.
57.
Yeah, you're 57, I'm 60.
Okay. You look good.
So, well, I'm trying. It becomes a battle at some point. It's a
lot harder than
I'm going to win the war. Yeah. But how many days a year do you travel? So I used to travel a ton. Mm-hmm. That's why I bought the planes. Mm-hmm. And I do still 120 seminars a year. Mm. But I was interested in staying married and having kids. So I had a goal every year to do less. Mm-hmm. To the point that like last year, I did 6 seminars. Oh, wow. But now I do them on a bigger scale. Big scale, yeah. And, and now that I've discovered Worre Studios, I'm going to be one of I used to be this guy and now I'm that. I'm going to be one of your testimonials. Yeah. And we'll have tens of thousands on the next one. Yep. And fantastic. So I cut it down. Now what's happened is all my kids are getting married and they got family. And now I'm actually, believe it or not, I worked very hard to get off the road. Mm-hmm. Our friend Jim Rohn, he was like a father to me. Mm-hmm. One of my greatest regrets in life is that every time Jim was around me, I made him feel sad. The man who changed my life, probably as influential, if not more, than my own father, because he would always come to the seminar and meet my wife and kids. And Jim used to say it subtly in his recordings. If I'd have known the cost, I wouldn't have paid the price. Mm-hmm. And when I got to know him, I found out what that was. Yep. And he'd lost a few marriages. Yep. And I said, I ain't doing that. Yeah.
And that's why I bought an airplane. Not for lifestyles and rich and famous. I was like, I'm in Houston in the morning.
I'll be home at night.
I'm going to be home. I'm going to coach the basketball team and have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And it takes a toll, as you well know. I mean, it's not easy. My plane became my office and so on and so forth. And then over time, I was able to shrink it all down. And
is it mostly in the United States or is it other places?
We're in 40 countries.
Wow.
And so, like, I mean, if you
the principles apply everywhere.
Well, like if you're in South Africa, you must use the Brian Buffini training program, or you can't get your real estate license. I know your bride's from Ukraine. I mean, boy, you talk about people like that, like Czechoslovakians. I mean, people who were underneath the gun, underneath communism, are the greatest entrepreneurs in the world. And sometimes I'm sitting here going, hey, let's wake up. Like it's easy here in America. Like
they're hungrier
compared to it's easier. Success isn't easy, but it's easier.
Right.
It's easier here than it is in Czechoslovakia. Or it was like I'm going down to Argentina next month.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have 3,000 people down there. Their economy, they've had 500% inflation.
Yeah.
You know the story. And they are out the door, fired up. The best producers you can believe. They dominate the market space. And they just get it, and they take a licking, and we're like, "Oh my God, inflation's 9%." And they're like, "No, we were like 120 last year." And they get it done. So, and by the way, when you go down there, it reminds me of being an immigrant. When I go down there, it reminds me of that juice, and I'm like, yeah, because you can get to the point, right? We get to a point like the fast food's not fast enough, this and that and the other. I had a guy working for me that when he started working for me, he was literally living on a shed. On a lot, like living in a van down by the river. And he was a great AV guy. And I was traveling all the time. And you need those guys that have a bit of an edge to them. You're kind of a roadie.
Yeah.
And I never forget it one time. He's in the back of the jet. And we had flown from New York and it was a Lear 45. So we didn't have full range from New York to San Diego. So he had filet mignon and drinks and whatever. I always treat the guys great. We land in Colorado Springs to refuel, get out, walk around. And I always used to have, a little snack the second leg. Well, anyway, the people didn't have cheese and crackers for the jet. Now, this guy 8 years ago is living in a van down by the river, and he bitched in the back of the jet from Colorado all the way to San Diego, to the point that made it into my book. And I said, when you lose perspective and you lose that edge, you start to lose that gratitude and appreciation. Every time I got on the airplane, I went, this is God's plane. This is fantastic. This is amazing. I can't believe it. This is great. And I enjoyed the living daylights out of it for 17 years. And then it's easy for a guy to lose perspective, and he's bitching and moaning about not having cheese and crackers on the back of the plane. So when you're around people who are hungry, when you go, and in your business, you've got to see it all the time. Mm-hmm. It just inspires you. It just fires you up. It makes you appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate your journey. And that's why if you're a person who's been doing what you've been doing a long time, go and hang out with a rookie.
Yeah.
By the way, you can mentor them, bring them along, help them.
You got to have those work clothes on.
Yeah, but you get that juice. Mm-hmm. And the people who have that fire, I like being around young people.
Yeah.
And they've got the juice, and they don't listen to, you can't do this and you can't do that. Your generation. I find the next generation have, in many ways, they're miles ahead of us.
Yeah. They sure can be. They have tools today.
They have.
How many people are you coaching at any one period of time?
We have 20,000 people right now.
Being coached.
Yeah. And then we'll have, we have 20,000 members, and then we'll have.
How many coaches have you trained that do the coaching?
Oh, I mean, over the years, a lot of people.
Yeah. So you have a certified coaching program?
Yeah, we certified coaching program. All our coaches used to be in San Diego. And then, of course, after COVID,
right.
Now they're all.
So 20,000 people are part of the program?
In different versions of it. So we have our most intense version of, say, you might have it in 5,000 blocks.
Yeah.
So you have the people who get the most intense one-on-one type thing. And then there's people who might there's a secondary version with
small groups
and things like that. We have like in the US alone, we have 390 small groups that meet every month.
Wow.
So that, and then we have a facilitator in each group. One of our clients is a member who volunteers, and then they get groups of 10 and 12 get together and they brainstorm, right? Because the community is key, right? Who you're hanging out with.
Right.
Fly with the Eagles or hang out with the Ducks.
Right. Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
And
then the training programs are what go over all over the world.
Sure. That's the broadest.
Yeah.
You're 57. I'm 60. I want to live till I'm 120.
Nice.
It used to be 100, but I'm focused on 120. My anti-aging doctor says I need to show up by like 2032 or so. in reasonable health. And he said 120 is a lock.
Okay.
With all the advancements in technology, you just have to don't screw it up.
Nice.
Don't create huge system problems.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. So we both have a lot of time. I mean, it's different when you think about our grandparents at this age and our great grandparents at this age. They looked old.
My mom and dad are still alive at 93 and 94.
Yeah. So we're gonna be productive for a long time.
Lord willing.
And I don't really understand retirement fully because I've been in a success coma a few times in my life. You get so much success, you're kind of walking through it. You're playing too much golf, and you don't realize that you're in the coma until you come out of it. You go, wow, those were 5 years. I was just kind of going through the motions. I only asked that to ask this: what's next? If you could look into the future for you, what do you see?
What next started today, being here with you. So people they'll say, you're the biggest thing no one ever heard of. And I focused on my niche. I was in real estate. And we have all these other businesses who've jumped into the coaching over years. Like you're coaching my husband, and so we'll facilitate that. But I've been focused on my niche. Jim Rohn said, get rich in a niche. I took it to heart. So I've been doing that for decades. I've loved it. I've enjoyed it. But I've decided, to me, I have this phrase, it's a good life. We help folks set it's a good life, spiritual, family, business, financial, personal. And so what I want to do is, in the time I have left, is expand my influence. And it's not even a business model. There'll be some kind of a model to support the people I'm bringing in who can help that happen.
You know what I found? I started Network Marketing Pro 15 years ago, 2000 March 2009.
Yeah.
Coming up on 16, and had no business plan.
Yeah.
It was just I was going to start.
Right.
And it started with Jim Rohn. If Jim Rohn had a camera in his pocket for all of his journeys, and he videoed it and sent out, had an archive of all of this stuff versus just mostly audio.
Right.
That would be a cool little thing to leave.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I said, I'm never going to be a Jim Rohn, but I'll try.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. And then the business showed up.
Right.
Events showed up, and the studio showed up, the travels around the world showed up, clients showed up, everything just happened.
Right.
But I'd love to say it was part of a business plan. It wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. When I say business plan, it's more
getting
myself organized. Absolutely. And the other part of it is, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, But I think for me, I think the world is drowning in information and starving for wisdom. And I want to connect with people like yourself. And I want to bring people who've been there and done that, who actually are, I was on The Apprentice on Tuesday, and I wrote my autobiography on Friday. And then, here's the latest thing. And I mean, the net is full of it. And, there's a lot of young people, they're brilliant, but my kids will show me stuff and they're like, yeah, whatever you do, don't invest, don't buy a house. What you should do is, no chance. Here it is. Take all your money and buy like a restaurant. I'm like, tackle them. Like, that's not maybe, but that's not. And so why? Because they're 26 years of age and have never done anything, but they're getting likes and hits and they're selling.
Everybody wants to be an influencer.
Yeah. So I actually want to be a person of influence. I don't want to be an influencer. And I think I just want to take beyond the real estate space and share some of the personal growth and development stuff that I've learned, and really expose people to a network of people who've got wisdom. And wherever that goes, it goes. And there's a number of people out there doing that. I just want to bring my flavor to it.
Yeah.
And so that's really for me.
There's a lot of, there's a need for the next generation of voices.
Yeah.
One thing you'll find interesting is at age 50, Jim Rohn was virtually unknown. Most of his impact happened between 50 and the time he died.
Right. Zig was 47 when he started.
So, I always often think about who's the next generation. I'm sure Jim was like, am I the next generation? Man. When he was looking at Earl Nightingale and he's looking at all these different greats.
Yeah. Never thought of that.
And you're like, I'm going to do my best.
Right.
And that's where I think we are.
Yeah.
Let's do our best.
Right.
And see what happens. And the next generation, there's going to be generations beyond us, and people doing things.
Well, even this conversation today, I mean, right off the bat in this conversation, I mean, obviously we have a lot of similar influences and a similar journey. But when you start with, hey, here's where I screwed up and here's where I went wrong and here's where it hurt, and we can identify with one another enormously from that, That's not what's talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, success
Everybody wants to look perfect.
It's 1995. It's 3 easy payments, and you're going to have it done, and you're going to be a million. Start at 25, and you're a millionaire by 26. I was a millionaire at 23. I was an unmillionaire at 26.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and then people say, well, it's better to at least you had it.
Yeah. No.
Well,
no, it wasn't.
If to have had it, be a person that used to have money,
yeah,
and not have it again, it sucks.
It's the worst.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Now, again, look, if you never had it, I understand that probably sucks too.
Yeah.
But I mean, your ego takes a beating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I, the one superpower I've had is I don't treat myself so seriously.
There you go.
And I learned that because I did early.
And by the way, that's another gift to bring to the marketplace. You know, the whole world has taken itself too seriously. I was talking with my friend Bill Hampton last night. I said, ever since the Spice Girls and the Kardashians, where you're not supposed to smile, and I said, everybody's got a poker up their butt. And it's like, no. And one of the great things about being Irish is not only do we not take ourselves too seriously, we don't take anyone else too seriously.
Right.
And here's a great example of that. This is, a name drop-in story.
If please.
You can live me. And this will actually incorporate everything. One of the things that amazes me when I was a kid was the American space program. You know, Kennedy, everyone in Ireland had a picture of Kennedy in their house. We're going to put a man on the moon, bring him safely to Earth by the end of the decade. Just like when he said that, and then America did it in July before the end of the decade. So I became fascinated with the American space program and just the shock of it all and putting a man on the moon and the whole thing. And I came to America and I just became enamored with it. And then when I got in the plane game, Gene Cernan, the last man on the moon, he flew our plane and I got to connect and so on and so forth. So I've had Jim Lovell at our seminars and whatever else. But now this will tell you where I was at. In 2002, our company's net income was $75,000. And I had heard that the most private man around the world was Neil Armstrong, who wouldn't do a speaking engagement. And I started, through a contact, started reaching out to him, started writing him personal notes and reaching out. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. I think our audience, yada, yada. And so I write all these notes to him. And finally, he takes one of my notes and writes on the back of it, "Are you going to keep writing me notes?" And sent it to me. And I took that note and a big marker, I said, "Yep," and sent it back to him. Next thing you know, I'll get a phone call. So his agent says, and he'll do it for $75,000, which was our entire net earnings for the year before. And I said, I'm in. On the business side of that, we went from our biggest seminar ever had been 4,200 people. When Neil Armstrong showed up, I think 4,600 showed up here at the MGM. I go to do the event. And this is a man who's had his hair clipping sold. He's had his privacy violated. For years, any politician wanted to trot something out, bring out the astronaut. So they were just used and abused to the point that he retreated, became like a hermit, professor at Ohio State University. So I'm trying to build a connection with him. We have in our contract to make a connection before he comes out and speaks in an interview. Going to have a talk. You do this all the time.
Yep.
And this is nothing. This is nothing. I'm sure you've had some difficult interviews. I'm talking to him. And I'd ask him a question. None of them were yes or no questions. All of them were yes or no answers. One time I asked him a question, and again, Irish sense of humor. I say something to him, and I hear nothing. And finally I go, over. And I can't get out from this guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I've just spent the entire company's net earnings on bringing this guy in, and he's given me nothing. So he comes over. He's being very standoffish, so on and so forth. He came in the day before. He wanted to see our audience. He hadn't done a speaking engagement in years. And he sits down with my family. And we had in the contract have lunch with us. And it's all stiff arm, no energy. Well, again, the Irish are pretty funny people.
Yeah.
And my dad, a very quiet man, is sitting next to him. My brother Dermot's trying to break the ice, you see, over our company. He goes, Neil, when you were on that moon, I wasn't even on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad goes, Dermot, because of me looking at that moon, that's why you're on this planet.
Yeah.
Well, Neil Armstrong almost upchucks his meal. Okay. And then he goes, just like you did, he goes, you Irish. He goes, I remember going to Ireland in off to the races. He says to me, would it be okay if I stood at the back of the stage for each one of your sessions? I'd like to hear what you're talking about. So I'd come off stage and he's standing there and he had a page full of books and notes. What about this? And when you said this and when you said that? And that night he went out and he started meeting the people. Well, the next day we had produced this massive soundtrack and massive introduction. He came on stage, he's got the tears coming down his face, the whole thing. And that interview, which made it into a movie, by the way, and an exhibit, it was the greatest experience of my speaking life. But the magic point of that was treating him like a person, writing personal notes. But it was when we didn't take ourselves too seriously that he now felt that he could take it down and not take himself too seriously.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting to build a relationship with the first man on the moon. And that, I would say, I've done 2,500 seminars. That particular event stands out as, and it was, you know, I would say I peaked 22 years ago.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that the rest of my
Treat
life.
people like people.
Yeah. And it broke down the barriers. And then the next day he went on and did a thing with Wolf Blitzer and gave him nothing. Back to the yes and no answers. And poor old Wolf was in the Situation Room dying on TV, you know? But he didn't build a relationship.
Yeah. I've had those. And you got to like learn to get past all the same stuff. When Sylvester Stallone comes, you don't just say, well, tell me what it was like to write Rocky.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like, come on.
Right.
You know, keep punching. We're going to keep,
Yeah.
we're going to stay there.
Yeah.
Or we're going to talk about, you know.
So how would you do that? How do you met Sly? You're going to have him at your gig. I know he was at your studios. How do you break the ice?
We talked, I did my homework.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
he's an artist, more than an actor,
like a painter.
He's an artist in everything. Everything he does, he approaches it as an artist.
Interesting.
So he's a writer, he's a painter, he's a director, he's a master of the visual craft. Okay. He's written 56 screenplays and 48 of them have been turned into movies. Show me somebody who's done that.
No, never heard of it.
He's fanatical about Edgar Allan Poe. Okay. I didn't know any of these things. So, you know, what does painting give to you? You know, what are your secrets of how do you actually write? Because what's the flow of it? You know, the tangible. Right. What time of day do you write? Right. You know, do you write?
And you're trying to get unstuck and write a book and going into his sweet spot.
Yeah,
he's probably happy to give you advice.
He loves talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, he loves talking about it in movies and stuff too.
Sure, yeah.
Because he knows that that's part of the game.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see that, but you know, getting to know the person, and looking for commonality.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you also said a little secret, right? And really successful people whisper these things and then move on. You said, I did my homework and moved on. How many people don't do their homework?
No, they don't.
How many
they just come in and they got their 10 questions to ask Rocky.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So yeah, well, look, this has all been great. How do people find you? If they want to get their training or want to buy your book or any of that stuff?
BuffiniandCompany.com.
Buffini and Company.
Yep. Buffini. Not hard to find.
And AND?
And company.com.
And company.com. Yep. And we'll put that in the show notes.
Great. Appreciate it.
And this has been fun.
Yeah.
Fun to just talk about the common journeys. Yeah. And you know, I found, like you said, success does leave clues.
Right.
That's why we call this Excellence Project, is just, you know, being world-class, putting your name on something. That's what it still comes down to. You know, can you put your name on it? Be proud of it. And there's levels to that too.
You bet.
Right? Because sometimes you look at your old stuff and you're like, oh, I put my name on it then, but
it was the best.
Man, I got better.
Yeah. Excellence is doing the best you can with what you have in the time frame allowed.
Yeah.
My first event was excellent. It's not like what they are today.
Yes.
But so don't be paralyzed by the perfectionism. But this has been a treat. I feel like we're brothers from a different mother.
Man. We're going to do lots of stuff together.
That's great.
Thank you for coming along. Excellent. And I look forward to seeing more of your stuff. And next time you do an event in the studio, I'm going to be there, sitting backstage, taking my own notes.
Thanks a million.
All right. Appreciate it.